and get started with the professional development about reading comprehension in middle school. We're going to call it the chat and cheese so y'all can continue snacking while we go through the data and get started. So our objectives today are participants will be introduced to new strategies to use in the classroom. Participants will share ideas about reading comprehension, and participants will look at research to see what it says about comprehension in the content groups. So we know that comprehension is the key. When we talk about test scores, have any of y'all noticed that comprehension seems to be the low end when you look at your data from Global Scholar?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes.
In the 7th grade data meeting, that was our lowest in the English language arts. That was the lowest.
Was reading comprehension? Why do you think that is? Do you think they're reading too fast, or they're reading not for their knowledge, or?
I think sometimes that, especially in the lower grades, they feel like, well, you know, I'm just going to scan through this and, you know, the teacher's going to go over it anyway.
Right.
However, as they progress into like 8th grade, that's when 7th and 8th grade they start to realize, oh no, you know,
Probably
I should pay
needed that.
attention. Yes.
Right.
And so that causes them to struggle.
Right. So notice with our reading assignment, sometimes that the kids really struggle to do the passages and then answer the questions. I know in 6th grade we do our skills assessments, and they really struggle to complete the questions because they are just skimming it for answers when you're asking those higher content questions. And then a lot of them are reading not for accuracy, and I know all of us in here are not reading teachers per se, but we all should be teaching reading in some way. Some literacy skills should be covered, whether it's speaking, listening, whatever. Okay, the first method we're going to talk about is the SQ4R. Have you ever heard the kids make the statement, I read it, just don't remember what it said?
Yeah.
Anybody ever said that?
Yeah, or they use the excuse, I can read and I just can't understand
I just can't understand it. Right. So the SQ4R strategy is for a lot of different things. You see over here, the SQ4R, you have the survey, which is like an overview, which is where you use the chapter survey, preview, outline, objectives, headings, figures, chapters. That's where they're just flipping through the textbook or flipping through, I know we do novels in 6th grade, flipping through the novels, reading the chapters to kind of get an overview of what is going on in the book. Then you have question, what's it about? They get that from their headings, the learning checks, keywords. Then they read the sections of the chapter. That's where they're taking notes, going through and highlighting possibly. The recite is where they are going over keywords, highlighting less than 20%. I don't know how y'all's kids work, but mine, if they have a highlighter, they just are highlighting everything.
Yeah.
So when we're doing the recite part, we want to make sure that they're highlighting less than 20% of the page, that it actually is practice for them and things that make sense. Then we have relate it. So we relate it when we make it with the real world connections for them. And then we have the review, the self-knowledge evaluation, which is the study guide and preparing them for a test.
Right.
Does this make sense? Does anybody have any ideas where you could possibly use the SQ4R strategy?
I could use it at the beginning of a new unit in social studies
Okay.
to have them, especially the overview and the survey part.
Okay. Anybody else?
Definitely with study guides.
Study guides.
Yes, study guide, because you'll give them a study guide and you ask them to answer the questions, and some of them will do it, some of them won't, you know,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so when you are surveying, what should the students be doing? In the survey stage of SQ4R, what should they be doing? Let's check y'all's understanding. What should they be doing during the survey section?
They should just be skimming the passage, the chapter, the
That's a
unit.
good word for it. What about question? What should they be doing?
Going a little bit more in depth with their reading. They should be looking for
Keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And boldface words.
right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that's when they're trying to figure out, what am I reading, why am I reading this, what's it about. Then they read the sections of the chapter, recite, relate, review, and that's your 4 R's. And I gave you a handout so you can take it back to your room that has all the steps of it and how to use it in all content areas, because I know we have every content area represented with social studies, language arts, math, and then Carpenter does it all. So, anybody have any questions about that one? We'll move on to the next one. So you think you could, Killer said you could use it in social studies beforehand. You said you could use it with any type of,
Yeah, a novel or just, just passages. Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially our nonfiction articles we do.
right, with LTF.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how do you think this will benefit them on a standardized test? Like Global Scholar or anything like that? How do you think this would help them?
I think it would help them pace themselves a little bit, because sometimes I think with the time, they feel like they get a little overwhelmed, and maybe if they had this in their head, okay, this is the first thing I should do. Next, I should, I should look for the keywords first, and then I should look at the headings. And
So do you think you could just tell your kids to do this and they'd be able to do it?
no,
No.
No, what's it gotta
You're
take?
gonna have to practice with it and until they get that
And they
step in their head.
Right.
I started doing this in my math.
Really?
So when I start the chapter, we do a preview,
Uh-huh.
skim it, see what we know, what looks familiar.
And then you're probably doing that, relate it to the other
Absolutely.
content areas,
Yes,
or,
it's not so scary,
right?
and building on prior knowledge. It's a building process, but yes, that works great even in math.
I think so too. So when they get on the standardized test, if we've modeled it for them, ideally they can relate back to it and say, that SQ4R, I can do that. I should go through
We're
all
doing
the
it in
steps.
math, social studies, English. It's just a
Right.
great practice.
And it will also help if we, explain to them, these are some steps that you can learn now, and it will help with some, because kids, I know I have a lot of anxiety when I have to take tests.
Right.
So this is going to help with anxiety, so you don't get nervous.
Right.
And that you can do the best you can.
And anything with an acronym, I think, helps them, because they can say SQ, okay, I need a survey, then I need a question, and then they go through the R's and they can just kind of check it off.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, if nobody has a question, we're gonna move on. All right, paraphrasing. Has anybody heard of paraphrasing?
Yes.
How do you think it could help your kids?
Taking notes.
Taking notes, okay? Because I know Miss Mustin and myself, when we do social studies notes, they will literally write every single
word.
thing, but they're not retaining any of it at all. But research tells us that if you can put it in like a 10 to 20 word gist, you really understood what you read or what you read. So what we're going to do, I'm going to hand you a American Journey book, which is the social studies book, and I want you to flip to page 842. Okay, so you'll notice this is on nonviolent protest. I want you to work as a group to read this little section. I tried to pick a little one because I know it's the end of the day and we're teachers. So I want you to pick out what you think. If you had to tell me in 10 to 20 words, summarize that for me.
Okay.
10 to 20 words. So if y'all want to read it out loud or you can read it to yourselves and then come back together. Give you about 5-10 minutes to get that.
Do we read that loud or do we just read
Let's read it to ourselves and then we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'll scribe.
Okay, all right. So in 10 words, I guess we could say our main people.
10 to 20 words, yes.
10 to 20 words. Okay, so our main place, okay, Victory in Montgomery. So we can say Montgomery, Dr. King,
He used the modeling of Gandhi.
And Randolph.
Right, he followed his tactics of A. Philip Randolph, and keeping beliefs nonviolent.
Yes.
We believe in
Believe in
nonviolence.
I think we
Civil
need to include in there
disobedience.
the Southern Christian, the SCLC,
The
because that
SCLC.
was a big,
Which, yes, that's what came up.
that they were using, the SCLC was teaching African Americans these tactics based on A. Philip Randolph and Gandhi of civil disobedience after Montgomery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
it's taught on how to do nonviolent protest.
Okay, all right. So, to put that in 20 words, Ms. Kellogg.
Default to the social studies teacher?
Yes. Exactly.
With the SCLC used nonviolent tactics based on Randolph and Gandhi.
Randolph and Gandhi.
And keeping their beliefs nonviolent.
To the SCLC used nonviolent tactics based on Randolph and Gandhi
Yes.
to prepare African Americans for the civil rights movement.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, to the struggle
For
for
the
equal
fight
rights.
for
Yes.
equal rights.
I like it, yes.
Got a word count?
Just a second.
Well, what I like about this passage is it tells me that it was founded on that belief of nonviolence, and that belief, and those people that also believed they were like-minded formed an organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and that organization that was their practice. So somehow, I don't know, that was just very powerful, the way it led up to it, and it could.
Well, and I see with, the counting of words, or you have an average amount of words, kids love stuff like that because it's like a contest.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
Who can get the closest? And
yes,
Right.
And y'all did it, whether or not you realized you did it. Y'all are going through and changing words to to that word count. But do you think that you skipped out on anything that was important?
No.
No, and that's the key thing is that you're not losing the integrity of the passage.
Right.
You're just summarizing it so that if someone asks you what that was about, you could tell them in this many words without, boring them to death. You could give them exactly what they needed to know about that passage.
But they found a need, and then they provided support. That's what I took from it.
Exactly. And I think exactly what Miss Gray is saying goes right back into what y'all summarized into the 19 words. So, do you think that you could use this anywhere other than a social studies passage?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Where?
Every day and everything.
Yes.
Yes,
Every
yes,
passage.
because.
Right,
Every day.
everywhere you could use it.
Everywhere.
Across the curriculum.
I think this would be good for review. You could even have them, maybe give them more than 20 words, but summarize the unit or the chapter in 150 words or something that you would have.
Like a $5 summary, we
Right.
should give them
The
less
$5.
money.
Which is exactly what that strategy is a paraphrasing strategy.
Okay.
Because the $5 summary is paraphrasing in that every word is worth 10 cents. So they have 50 words by the end of it. And like we said earlier, if you can get your point across in less words, you really know what you're talking about. But the most important part when doing this strategy with your students is to make sure that their sentences are coherent, that they make sense, and that they didn't go through and just pick out random junk throughout the passage. Because sometimes they will just throw in Gandhi, SCLC, and just throw a bunch of mess in one paragraph that doesn't make sense.
And they don't even,
They don't understand what it said, so we definitely can't understand what it says.
Okay.
Okay, so math, Miss Gray, you think you could use it anywhere?
Oh, yes.
What about do you ever have where you do like the reciprocal teaching where the kids are teaching the strategies
Yep.
or teaching the things?
Yesterday.
Okay, well, perfect. Then that would be a little quick gist where they can say, okay, well, how do you divide fractions or whatever, and they have to do it in 10 to 20 words. I think that would really help them,
A lot.
you know, kind of divvy out the extra information that's not important. Okay, so we're going to move on then. All right, sticky note responses. Has anyone ever done sticky note responses? Yes. Okay, so then y'all should be teaching it then, if you've done it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I read an article the other day about sticky note responses, and that's why I chose it to be one of my strategies. In the fact that if the students have things that they know they're going to be asked, or things that they know are important throughout the text, they're more apt to really hone in and pay attention. And it doesn't always have to be that end of the chapter review or those section reviews that, you know, sometimes boring or not necessarily boring, but kind of monotonous kind of thing for the students to be doing. So the sticky note responses are questions that you've come up with ahead of time that they're going to respond to throughout the text. You can use it in math, you could use it in science, you could use it in social studies, or, you know, English language arts definitely, to the point where the students are connecting with the text and they're using the word you. Like, you told me that this passage was about nonviolent protest. So instead of them saying the passage says blah, 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 they're relating and calling it you. You did this, you said this, you blah, blah, blah. So that it becomes more connected to them in a way. So what I want you to do, I want you to find any section in the social studies book that you want. Any section in the social studies book. And I want you to come up with 3 response questions you could do based on that passage. So if we did nonviolent protest, what would be a question you would want your students to know at the end of it? And that sticky note, when you're doing the sticky note responses, they would have them, and they would have them on their paper right here, and you can actually, I'll send y'all the template, you can print on sticky notes, so you can have them done ahead of time, and you would say like, let's see right here, Mohandas Gandhi, who did he help mold into the way of the nonviolent protest? And of course the answer would be A. Philip Randolph. The students would respond with, you told me that blah blah blah. Does that make sense? Is everybody clear on that? So you can find any passage in here that you want to, and I'm going to give you 3 sticky notes, and you're going to come up with response questions that you could use in your classroom for students. There's 3. How many more sets I need?
One more, there's one more.
You write in your teacher's
Oh, gotcha. Now you get about.
Oh, you gonna do it? Oh, okay, so I'll put that. That's fine. No, that's fine.
It doesn't even have to always be content related. It could be, how did this passage make you feel?
Okay.
You made me feel X, Y, Z. Or how does this connect to your life? Teachers have such nice handwriting.
Alright, I'll give you about 2 to 3 more minutes. That's why it's called Chat and Chew. Get you some snacks.
Is it okay if I did it on these two?
Absolutely. Alright, they may need another minute